they told me. I only have 6 months left to live. When I confessed this to my husband, he merely changed his expression slightly. Shocked only for a moment, he then relaxed his face and said, "I'll keep going out drinking as usual. It's a shame, but what can you do?" He spoke indifferently, and true to his word, he went out drinking almost every day, making early morning returns a regular occurrence. Today, he came home in the morning again, reeking of women's perfume. The irony was, it wasn't me but my husband who had received the terminal diagnosis. He misunderstood, thinking I was the one with only 6 months left, and kept indulging in affairs. If that's how it is, so be it. I have my plans too. I'll make sure he regrets it. 6 months later, here I am, still perfectly healthy. When are you going to die already? My husband yelled at me, unable to hide his emotions. My husband yelled at me, unable to hide his emotions. Glancing at him, I simply said, "What are you talking about? You're the one with only 6 months to live." "What?" "I'm Natalie, 29 years old. This is the 4th year of my marriage with Tyler. We met through a mutual friend from our drinking circle. Tyler is a man who could handle his liquor and had a wide social circle. He was flashy but fun to be around, kind to everyone, and quite the ladies' man. Fresh from a heartbreak, I found solace in his company, often turning to him for a listening ear. He comforted me without words, sometimes taking me out for drives to cheer me up. Drawn to his kindness, I started dating him and eventually we got married. For a while after our wedding, I scaled back my work to manage the household, while Tyler helped out a bit with the chores. But in the past year, he began to go out more, often returning late. Maybe he was tired of our life together. I often found myself called out late at night to pick him up after he missed his last train. Though he always loved drinking, I didn't want to be too controlling, so I just gently reminded him, "Don't stay out too late, I worry." But Tyler would retort, "I have my own social life," and wouldn't listen. Soon, he started coming home in the early hours. I'd wake up to the sound of the door in the early morning. I was waiting for him on the sofa, rubbing my sleepy eyes. "Welcome back, but this staying out all night is too much. It worries me," I told him. I could smell women's perfume on him. "Who were you with and what were you doing to get that perfume on you?" I felt a sharp pain in my nose, my eyes welling up naturally. The anxiety was overwhelming, leaving me far from calm. Tyler just sighed heavily, as if annoyed, and went straight to the bedroom. He noticed I was on the verge of tears, but he still left me with a silent rejection. That's what I thought. No matter how many times I brought it up, his behavior never changed. I gave up and began losing my affection for him. I'd go to bed even if he wasn't home. I'd stop making dinner. We barely spoke anymore. The emptiness of this routine was becoming a habit, and it was incredibly sad. What would become of us? We didn't even have children. When was the last time we had a proper conversation? I fell asleep alone, laden with these anxieties. Just as I was getting used to this life, an unknown number called me. It was from the hospital where Tyler was being treated. Why wouldn't they call him directly? Reluctantly, I decided to call back. "Hello. I'm Tyler's wife. I'm returning your call." The doctor on the other end was Tyler's primary doctor. We tried reaching him several times with no response, so we decided to call you. "We need to discuss the results of his health checkup. Could you please come to the hospital as soon as possible?" That's how the call with the doctor ended. I had no idea when he'd be home to talk about it or if he'd even listen. It seemed easier to go to the hospital myself than to try and communicate with him. "Sorry, it seems my husband can't make time." I made up some excuse to the doctor to get through the situation. "What did you want to talk about, doctor?" His somber expression caught my attention. "I think it's best to tell him directly, but..." The doctor hesitated. "Was it something difficult to say? Please, take a moment. Your husband, we believe, has about 6 months to live. Unfortunately, the tumor is too large to treat now." He showed me several x-rays. "Was this shadow eating away at Tyler? Please, discuss how you want to spend the remaining time with your family." Having said that, I left the consultation room. I was quite shocked, too, and didn't really absorb much of what was said. I must have received explanations, as I had several pamphlets about second opinions and treatment options in my hand. What should I tell him? And where do I even start? No answers came to mind. Walking home alone, I couldn't find the right way to convey the news. "I have something important to discuss. Please talk to me when you get home." After much deliberation, I sent this message to Tyler. A message like this, a normal married couple wouldn't send, I guess. At that moment, I found myself wondering, could we truly still call ourselves a married couple? A few days later, on a Sunday morning, My husband returned home. He had read my message but hadn't responded. What did you want to talk about? He seemed annoyed, changing his clothes. I'm tired and want to sleep. Hurry up. He practically demanded for me to be quick. Please, listen calmly. You see, your remaining time. They say you only have 6 months left. Tyler's eyes widened slightly as he heard my confession. He stopped moving and looked straight at me. But as quickly as he was surprised, he relaxed his face and said, I'll keep going out as usual. It's a pity, but it can't be helped, right? He continued dressing nonchalantly. There was something in Tyler's expression, then a glimpse of sadness. Yet something else lingered in my mind. What was he thinking? Perhaps he was deeply saddened. Had he been aware of his own health issues all along and was prepared? Was he suppressing his emotions? I thought it imprudent to ask about his behavior and chose to leave it be. As promised, my husband continued his nightly outings. He came home in the early hours smelling like women's perfume. Was he living his life the way he wanted in his remaining days? This made me realize, yet again, how low I ranked in his priorities. Days passed with no change, no discussions about the future. We didn't even talk. One day, while Tyler was getting ready to go out, the phone rang. Tyler emerged into the hallway, looking slightly flustered. He seemed to be talking while glancing at me. Who was he speaking with? It shouldn't matter now. Yet curiosity got the better of me. Passing by the door, I overheard something shocking. The life insurance will kick in 6 months from now. So, let's be together then, okay? Just hang in there a little longer. Let's go on trips, maybe even build a house together. He whispered, but there was a hint of excitement, even joy, in his voice. I hadn't intended to eavesdrop, but the content of the conversation left me in turmoil. Standing in the kitchen, I couldn't grasp the situation. As I pieced things together, I realized who Tyler was talking to. He had misunderstood. His actions were based on the belief that I had only 6 months to live. That explained the odd feeling during our conversation about the terminal diagnosis. Tyler must have realized then, not about himself, but that my life insurance money was within reach. He was acting sorrowful to secure that money. Yet, his inability to hide his underlying joy was evident. Realizing his callousness and intentions sent chills down my spine. He hadn't brought up divorce, likely eyeing the insurance money. To think I had been living with such a heartless person. And now, I had definitive proof of his infidelity. Though I had suspected his affairs, facing the reality shook me. I couldn't catch up with what was unfolding before my eyes. I felt nauseous, dizzy. Stress was manifesting physically, but I couldn't let myself be defeated here. If Tyler had his plans, so did I. He should taste the pain he inflicted on me. That day, I threw away all the information I had gathered for him, second opinions, articles, pamphlets about his condition. Discarding them, I buried my feelings for Tyler as well. About 6 months had passed since then. I, as always, was still going strong. I continued with my work and lived my everyday life. In the past month, Tyler started asking about my health whenever he came home. Not out of concern, of course. He was probably checking the deadline, eagerly awaiting my demise. But no matter how many times he asked, I only replied, I'm fine. I held no affection for Tyler anymore. If there were any emotions left, they were the exact opposite, an indifferent me, and a husband who wouldn't come home or even stay close to home. Our marriage as a facade had deepened even more, but I had no intention of doing anything about it. Today, like every other day, Tyler came home and asked, how's your health? Just fine, I replied as usual. Just as I thought we were going to have the same exchange again, he suddenly burst out, hey! Startled by his sudden loud voice, I turned to look at him. What's the matter? I asked, surprised by his sudden loud voice. When are you going to die already? It's been half a year, hasn't it? It should be about time. Think about how I feel, waiting. You're really dragging this out. You're worthless to me now, nothing but money. If it weren't for that, I would have divorced you long ago. You're worthless to me now, nothing but money. If it weren't for that, I would have divorced you long ago. After hurling these hurtful words and insults at me, Tyler downed a glass of iced tea I had made. He glared at me, gasping for breath. He had shoved all the housework onto me, and yet, he could so easily deny my existence. His true nature was showing now. It was ugly, but I felt nothing. It was all expected. I couldn't help but laugh at his foolishness and shallowness. How foolish he was. Hey, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? He said, grabbing my arm. As he saw my smiling face, his own twisted in confusion. I glanced at him and said, what are you talking about? You're the one who's got 6 months left. What? Tyler's voice sounded foolish as he failed to grasp the situation. Idiot, haven't you noticed? Didn't you feel something was wrong with your own health? Right? You were too busy with your affair, having a great time. If that's the case, no wonder you didn't notice. Unfortunately, the life insurance money you were counting on won't be coming. It's not me who's sick, it's you, I said, laughing. Tyler's face turned ashen. What do you mean I only have 6 months to live? He began to tremble. What do I mean? Exactly what I said. You ignored calls from the hospital months ago, and you never listened to me. You've brought this upon yourself. You're reaping what you sowed. He must have realized the consequences of his actions. Tyler was mumbling something while staring into space. His panicked behavior was bizarre. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He suddenly burst into tears, grabbing my arm. Let go. I shook him off, glaring fiercely. That's because I did tell you. You just misunderstood. I realized you were mistaken when I overheard you talking on the phone about life insurance with your lover. You were eavesdropping on that call? He tried to blame me, defiantly. I heard it whether I wanted to or not. You dare to have such conversations inside the house. Well, fine. Enjoy your fleeting life with your mistress. Let her be the one to see you through to the end. As I said this and headed for the door, Tyler cried out, "Wait," but I kept walking towards the door, unbothered. Then, to my surprise, Tyler knelt down before me. It was just a moment of weakness. "I'm sorry. Please, don't abandon me. I'm begging you," he said, pressing his forehead to the floor with force. A moment ago, he was yelling at me to disappear, and now he's groveling? How utterly selfish. Tyler seemed like nothing more than a mass of ugliness. My value to you was just the insurance money, right? So now that you know I'm not dying, I guess I'm worthless to you. I'll disappear from your sight, just as you wished, I said and stepped past the cowering Tyler, leaving the house. Wait, it was my fault, he wailed in despair, but I left him behind. Let him taste the loneliness I had endured. How lonely, miserable, and empty it was. Even as Tyler cried out, I felt nothing but disdain. 2 weeks after leaving the house, I was staying at a friend's place, having just signed a lease for a new apartment. I had decided not to return to that house. I was buying new furniture, ready for a fresh start. I was busy with work and moving. A call from the hospital came one day. Your husband, Mr. Tyler, has been admitted. We need to explain something to you. Please visit us. I learned of Tyler's hospitalization from the voicemail. We hadn't seen each other since then. Therefore, I hadn't even prepared the divorce papers. Not wanting to inconvenience the hospital, I reluctantly went. After hearing the explanation, I was led to Tyler's room. Perhaps they were being considerate. The nurses left the room immediately after showing me in. Tyler was sitting up against the wall on his bed. It's been a while, he said awkwardly. Was it the illness or losing everything that made his cheeks hollow? Did you change your mind? I couldn't understand how he could say such a thing in this situation. Why would you think that? I thought maybe you'd feel sorry for me being alone in the end. Confused by his audacity, I stated the facts. I'm here because the hospital called me. We're still technically married, after all. I can't cause trouble for them. You're just reaping what you sowed. Now you're in the same position. How convenient for you. Your beloved mistress should be the one to care for you. Weren't you planning trips and building a house together? I said coldly, laced with sarcasm. Huh. After she found out there's no insurance money and I got sick, she cut off all contact. Such a cruel person. Tyler smiled bitterly. In the end, he was left with nothing. I will never forgive you for what you've done. No apology will ever change that. I don't care if you're sick. I'm going to get every penny of alimony and divorce you. So, I can't fulfill those faint hopes you're holding onto. Unfortunately, I declared this and looked at Tyler. He had tears brimming in his eyes, staring fixedly at one point. I didn't know what he felt as he shed those tears. I neither knew nor wanted to know. A lawyer will be in touch soon. If you can't pay the alimony, I'll be claiming the insurance money. With that, I left the room without another thought. Stepping out of the hospital, I felt surprisingly light. Finally, I was free from Tyler. Looking up at the clear sky, I realized it had been a while since I had done so and stretched deeply. Later, I confirmed that the alimony had been deposited into my account from Tyler. Perhaps he had finally given up. It felt like a fresh start for my life was finally possible. What should I do now? Resume hobbies I had put aside after getting married? Maybe travel with friends? Relieved of my past burdens, I felt my heart swell with optimism for a brighter future.